Exposed, the 1858 image revealed a sinister auction, a haunted child's cursed fate discovered. A cold shiver crept down Ellen's spine as she stood in her grandmother's dusty attic, the air thick with age and dread. There, hidden beneath cobwebs and forgotten treasures, lay a photograph that would twist her world. In it, a small girl, no more than 6, stood trembling on an auction block. Her wide, terrified eyes seemed to pierce through time, begging for help as if the dark shadows of the past were clawing at her. Ellen's heart raced. She clutched the photograph, a sense of foreboding wrapping around her like a suffocating blanket. "What have you stumbled into?" she whispered to herself. Outside, the laughter of her son, Tom, floated through the open window, blissfully unaware of the ominous history that lingered just a breath away. The once comforting sounds of suburban life now felt warped and sinister. The quaint town of Willow Creek had always been steeped in old-fashioned charm, the white picket fences and tree-lined streets welcoming. But now, that idyllic facade began to crack. Ellen learned that the photograph had belonged to Clyde, a local antique dealer known for his eccentric claims. The townsfolk murmured about him vanishing mysteriously after he insisted the little girl was cursed. Ellen felt the weight of those words settle heavily in her gut. Cursed. Was it possible? Bizarre events began to unravel the life she'd known. Her neighbor's cat disappeared, then a little girl from down the street, then a strange figure flickered in the twilight just beyond her backyard. The woods whispered secrets at night, luring her deeper into the shadows. Ellen hesitated, yet her urge to uncover the truth outweighed her fear. She glanced up at the familiar faces around her. They were changing too. Avoiding her gaze. Silently guarding their own sins. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Ellen ventured to the town library, the archives were an overwhelming labyrinth of dust and forgotten tales. Just as she was about to give up hope, she stumbled upon a faded ledger. There in black ink were names that made her skin crawl, some familiar, others lost to time. The girl she once thought haunted was merely a cursed echo of stories long buried. But the deeper she dug, the more the smothering shadows closed in around her. The night Tom started having nightmares, the girl screaming, pleading for her life, Ellen felt her heart shatter. She had to confront the truth, even if it meant uncovering the community's darkest secrets. Her own neighbors were not the protectors they seemed. As she drew nearer to the heart of the town's monstrous past, she had a chilling realization: the greatest danger didn't lurk in the shadows of the woods, but in the hearts of those she had once trusted. With every heartbeat, dread unfurled like a veil. Ellen's grip on the photograph tightened. Somewhere in Willow Creek, the malevolence of the past coiled tightly, waiting for its next victim. Could she save Tom from the creeping darkness that threatened to reclaim its lost connection? As the walls closed in, the question lingered, taunting her with every breath: what horrors lay in wait, hidden beneath the veneer of a charming neighborhood? Ellen's sleepless nights became a new norm. Every creak of the old house sent her heart racing, every whisper of wine through the trees keeping her on edge. Shadows danced in her peripheral vision, making her doubt her sanity. The photograph remained an ominous presence, an anchor pulling her deeper into the darkness. Days bled into each other, and Tom's nightmares intensified. He woke up screaming, drenched in sweat, eyes wide with fear. "Mommy, she needs us," he shouted one night, gripping her arm with clammy hands. Ellen took a deep breath, forcing her voice to remain steady. "Who, honey?" But the boy merely shivered, too far lost in the horror of his dreams to respond. Desperate to find answers, she returned to the library. The air felt charged, electric with secrets long buried. As she combed through brittle pages and old volumes, she uncovered a buried story of the auction. A wealthy couple had gone missing shortly after the eerie auction, their estate ransacked before being swallowed by rumors of curses and hauntings. The little girl Lila had vanished too, along with the sordid whispers of her fate. Ellen's pulse quickened. It was all connected. Lila's image haunted her mind like a ghost refusing to be forgotten. Each detail twisted the knife deeper into her gut. Ellen had to find her, to lift the veil shrouding all of Willow Creek. A chill ran down her spine when she uncovered a map, one scribbled with eerie marks, leading into the heart of the woods within a radius of where several children's disappearances had occurred. Shivering, she folded the map, tucking it safely into her jacket pocket. She would start her search at first light. That night, as the clock struck 3, a soft tapping sounded from the window. Tired but alert, Ellen rushed to investigate. Standing in the moonlight was her neighbor, Mrs. Hargrove. She looked pale, her face drawn tight with fear. "Ellen!" She gasped, the urgency in her voice sending a jolt through Ellen's system. "Tom, you need to keep him close. There's something evil in our midst, something that hunts." "What do you mean?" This wasn't the first time Ellen sensed unease wrapped tightly around Mrs. Hargrove. She wanted to dismiss it, to see her neighbor's words as mere paranoia. But every instinct screamed at her to listen. Mrs. Hargrove glanced around, her eyes darting like startled birds. "I've seen it, heard it." Her voice trembled. "The woods aren't what they seem. It's been watching. I'm telling you, the girl in that picture she's connected. They want him." A cold sweat broke out across Ellen's forehead as dread turned to icy fear. What did she mean? Who were they? The night stretched long, every rustle outside sending her mind spiraling into the realm of nightmares. Ellen clutched the edges of the windowsill, gripping it tightly as shadows morphed and shifted in the moonlight. Had the curse already reached their doorsteps? In the direction of the woods, she could swear she saw a flicker of pale light, a lantern. Or was it a spirit? Ellen froze, her instincts torn between fleeing and uncovering the untold horror. "Tom!" she whispered urgently, rushing to his room. She found him tossing and turning, trapped in the throes of another nightmare. Heart pounding, she shook him awake. "Mommy!" he gasped, his voice a fragile whisper. The girl she wants to play. Ellen's blood ran cold. The reality crashed down on her. Was it too late to save him? Before she could speak, a thunderous crash echoed from outside, followed by a bone-chilling scream. The darkness enveloped the house, swallowing it whole. Heart racing, Ellen stared at Tom. They were out of time. What had she awakened? The question rocked her to her core. Would she have the strength to face whatever came next? As the air turned frigid, the silhouette of the girl flickered at the edge of her vision. The hunt was beginning. Ellen stood frozen, her heartbeat pounding in her ears as the house creaked ominously around her. She glanced back at Tom, whose wide eyes were filled with confusion and terror. "Stay close," she whispered, trying to keep the tremor from her voice. There was a life-and-death urgency in her words as she moved toward the door, ready to confront the unimaginable. The scream from outside clawed at her sanity, piercing through the shroud of night like a knife. What was that? Tom gasped, trembling as he clutched his mother's arm. The thought of it reaching inside their home made her stomach churn. Whatever hunted them was no longer content to wait in the shadows. Without hesitation, Ellen grabbed a flashlight from the drawer, its beam flickering to life like her hopes. She motioned for Tom to follow her as she tiptoed toward the front door, conjuring the bravery she hardly felt. Each creak of the floorboards underfoot felt like a bell tolling, announcing their presence to whatever lurked outside. "Remember what Mrs. Hargrove said," she murmured, almost as if her words alone could charm away the darkness. The edges of her vision played tricks. She could swear she saw the pale light dancing among the trees outside. Her instincts screamed at her leave, run, hide, but the moment's urgency demanded another path. As they stepped outside, the chill wrapped around them, sinking into their skin. The moon hung low in the sky, casting weak silver rays onto the ground, flickering like whispers of long-lost souls. Suddenly, the flickering light she'd seen pierced through a dense jumble of trees, almost beckoning her to follow. It felt both inviting and sinister, like a moth drawn to flame. Ellen's legs moved before her brain caught up, and she found herself leading Tom toward the trees. Frantic thoughts raced through her mind. How could she protect him? What if they were too late? With every step, her heart lurched. She wished for a moment of clarity but found nothing but fear clouding her thoughts. Then they came to a clearing. It was eerily quiet, yet the flickering light shone so brightly it had transformed the night into a surreal tableau of shadows and blinding brightness. Ellen squinted, searching for signs of life, praying they weren't alone. Suddenly, Tom pulled away from her, pointing. "Mom, look!" His voice was a harsh whisper, fear-stricken yet laced with a hint of awe. Ellen turned to where he gestured. At the center of the clearing stood what appeared to be a dilapidated old well, the source of the pale light spilling from within. It pulsed rhythmically as if it breathed, an ancient heartbeat echoing in the silence. The well wasn't merely a structure, it felt like a portal, a threshold to worlds unknown. Then she saw it drawing closer to the edge. She noticed a tattered rag doll, its button eyes staring blankly at them. It lay on the ground, partially covered in dirt, threads of its clothing disheveled like forgotten memories. Ellen picked it up instinctively, feeling a surge of cold wash over her. The weight of it was heavy in her hands, coiled around her wrist like a serpent. A soft giggle rang out from the trees, the kind that made her blood freeze. It was a child's laughter, light but haunting. The hair on her arms stood upright, as the hairs on the back of her neck prickled with dread. "Mommy, can we go back?" Tom's voice quivered. It shook Ellen to her core. Before she could respond, a shadow flitted past them, slipping between the trees so fast she barely caught the movement. "We need to go now." She grasped Tom's hand tightly, turning to flee back to the house. But it was too late. The world shifted around her, and suddenly, the path seemed foreign, twisted, and wrong. "What is happening?" she gasped, panic flooding her senses. The laughter grew louder, echoing all around them, a chorus of whispers that drained their courage. Ellen squeezed Tom's hand tighter, willing him to stay close as shadows danced in the corners of her eyes, teasing her sanity. As they stumbled through the changing landscape, Ellen's thoughts turned dark. Had they fallen into a trap? What waited for them just beyond the light? What truly wanted Tom? A distant wail pierced through the laughter, a chilling reminder that they were not alone. Whatever lurked in the woods had begun to pursue them. With every racing heartbeat, Ellen felt the weight of the curse that threatened to drag them down into its abyss. But that relentless laughter hung in the air, taunting them. What new horror awaited them in the woods? Ellen's heart raced as she turned, yanking Tom behind her, but the ground shifted beneath their feet. The familiar trees around her swirled like a nauseating kaleidoscope. She felt trapped in a strange version of reality, where the shadows whispered lies and the laughter carried malice. "Mom, it hurts. My hand." Tom cried, his grip tightening painfully around hers. "I know, honey, I know. Just hold on." Ellen's voice trembled with urgency, but she felt herself losing control, every step becoming more of a struggle as if the very earth conspired against them. A burst of cold wind swept through the clearing, chilling her to the bone, and she turned to scan the shadows. "Show yourself!" she shouted, rage mingling with her fear. The laughter only intensified, swirling around them like a tempest. They were being hunted, and whatever it was, it reveled in the chase. Then, beneath the din, she heard it again, a soft, crooning melody. It wove through the trees like an unreachable dream, even more enchanting and sinister than the laughter that drowned it out. "Tom, listen to me. We have to keep moving," she said, trying to project strength, even as dread twisted in her stomach. The well behind them pulsed again, its light beckoning like a siren's call. Ellen dared a glance over her shoulder, and her stomach dropped. The doll she had touched lay abandoned at its edge, its button eyes glimmering in the moonlight. It's all connected, she thought, panic rising stronger. Could the doll have been a beacon? Were they drawn here for a reason? Mommy. Tom's voice cut through her spiraling thoughts. He pointed ahead, eyes wide with terror. A figure emerged from the darkness, barely distinguishable at first, but as it stepped into the moonlight, it became horrifyingly clear. It was a girl, impossibly pale, hair as dark as coal cascading around her shoulder. The ragged dress she wore seemed to absorb the light, and the way she stared at them cold, vacant sent a jolt of pure terror racing through Ellen. "Come play with me," she sang softly, her voice a sickly sweet invitation. "We're all waiting." Ellen tightened her grip on Tom, but he was already stepping forward, mesmerized. "No. Tom, come back," she shouted, pulling him away. The shadows around the girl began to writhe, as if eager to obey her summons. Ellen's instincts screamed to flee, that whatever magic here was dark and binding. "I just want to go home," Tom cried, his voice breaking. "That's what they all say," the girl responded, her smile unervingly wide. Ellen felt an icy breath on her neck. In a flash, the world blurred, the trees closing in, the light of the well flashing in dizzying patterns. Ellen jerked Tom into a run, heart pounding, the sound of their footsteps swallowed by the laughter that followed. "We have to reach the house. It's our only chance," she yelled, desperation clawing at her throat. But each turn revealed a changing landscape, all familiarity lost. The trees loomed larger, and darkness closed around them like a suffocating blanket. Then, there it was, a small, dilapidated cabin hidden among the trees, its door ajar, beckoning as if offering shelter, but Ellen felt nothing but dread. "Mommy, please. I want to go in," Tom whimpered, tugging her toward it. "No. We can't." Panic surged within her. Something about the cabin pulled her closer, its walls seeming to pulse with secrets and forgotten souls. But a scream echoed, drowning out her thoughts, vibrating in the air with raw terror. It bounced off the trees and filled her with dread. She pulled Tom back as he struggled against her grasp, fighting a pull she couldn't see. "Why can't we go, Mom?" he shrieked, desperation lacing his tone. The girl reappeared at the edge of the clearing, her haunting melody ringing clear. "Just stay with us." Forever the shadows danced anew, their sway magnetic, and as the wails crescendoed, Ellen clutched Tom tighter. The world began to blur, the certainty of their existence slipping away. What lay behind that door? Would they find salvation, or the fate that awaited others lost in the woods? As the laughter echoed louder, Ellen made a decision, longing for the path that could lead them home, yet terrified of what they might leave behind. "Tom, we need to choose," she whispered, fear entwined with resignation. "But which way leads to safety and which leads to them?" The shadows laughed again, circling them as they faced an impossible choice. "Mom, please." Tom's plea broke through the cacophony, anchoring her to the moment. What lay beyond would determine everything. Before they could act, the ground lurched again, twisting everything around them once more. Would they figure out which path to take before time ran out? Would the well claim them as its own? "Which way?" she cried, but the only answer was a hollow echo. The darkness pressed in closer, waiting to swallow them whole. The cabin loomed before them, an ancient spectre that seemed to breathe, every creak of its weathered wood mingling with the howls of wind. Ellen's pulse quickened, but she felt the tug of something deeper, an unexplainable gravity that pulled her toward the door. "Mom! We have to go in!" Tom cried again, desperation cracking his voice. "No!" she yelled, yanking Tom back as he strained forward, nearly breaking free from her grasp. The shadows twisted around them, closing in, the laughter now a sinister, jarring symphony that filled the air. As if in response to their conflict, the cabin shuddered, rattling its door on uneven hinges, and Ellen felt a wave of icy breath wash over her, chilling her from the inside out. What's in there, Tom? We don't know. She wasn't just speaking to him, she was pleading with herself. Suddenly, the shadows danced and twisted, forming faces that lurked in the corners of her vision. Each flicker of movement sent electric jolts of terror through her limbs. The girl, still smiling her unnerving smile, seemed to dissolve into the dark, only to reappear, closer, illuminated by a light that didn't exist. It's better if you join us, forever. Please. Just let me go home. Tom shouted, fighting against her hold. His little face twisted in fear, and Ellen knew that surrendering to the call of the cabin might be sealing their fate. With a frantic rush, she pulled him toward the trees, but the shadows held her back. Stop! Tom yelled, wide eyes wet with tears. I don't want to die here. His words pierced through Ellen like a dagger, and her heart squeezed painfully. She had to protect him, but fear had taken hold, threatening to consume them both. What if the cabin really did hold a way out? Or was it merely a trap for the lost? Mom. Please, please. Tom begged, his cries wavering. The girl's laughter rang out again, merging seamlessly with the whispers of the woods. They all come to play, eventually. Ellen's resolve began to crumble. We can't stay here. She yelled, forcing her vision to remain locked on the trees beyond the cabin, their silhouettes now seeming like the limbs of dark fingers, clawing at the edge of sanity. As if her defiance ignited something within the shadows, a terrifying pulse traveled through the ground, forcing her to stumble. The trees swayed and recoiled as if alive, sensing her fear, responding to Malice's call. Just a little closer, the girl sang, her voice now an alluring promise woven with poison. What had she done? Ellen had hoped the darkness wouldn't see them, that it would let them slip away unnoticed. But that thought shattered under the weight of the haunting melody, making her skin crawl. Mom! The door! Tom shrieked again, his little finger pointing toward the cabin as the door creaked wide, invitingly. Shimmering faces flickered in that darkened entryway, each carrying the muted echo of laughter. Something within her screamed to run, but the pull of the cabin was undeniable. Wisps of smoke-like shadows slithered out, wrapping around her ankles and curling up her legs. They beckoned, offering promised refuge from the horrors lurking outside, whispering secrets of their lost lives. Ellen fought against it. No. We won't give in. She shouted, struggling to stand tall against the grip of despair tightening around her. But Tom was slipping away. The little boy was caught now, staring into the abyss of the open door. Ellen's heart shattered as he stepped forward, entranced. Tom! She screamed, lunging forward. Just as her fingers brushed skin, the ground shook violently, and an unseen force yanked Tom through the threshold. Mommy! His scream, full of terror and confusion, echoed in the thickening darkness as the door snapped shut behind him with a bone-chilling finality. Ellen stood frozen, her breath caught in her throat, dread consuming her. Now he was trapped inside, and she was utterly alone, faced with the shadows that leered and beckoned, waiting for her to make a choice. Would she dare to follow him into that nightmare? Could she bear the weight of the unknown that awaited her? She took a step back, but the shadows surged forward, eager to reclaim what had almost escaped. Time was spinning down, and in that moment, she felt a pulse of cold realization, the well, the laughter, the girl, it was all for her. Ellen's heart raced, realizing the truth buried deep within the knots of terror. They weren't just lost, they were bait. With fear wrapping around her like a vice, she whispered to herself, what if it's already too late? And before she could decide, thunder rumbled, shaking the very ground beneath her. The forest seemed ready to swallow her whole. But she had to find Tom even if it meant facing whatever awaited beyond that door. What had she unleashed and what awaited her inside? Ellen could barely see through her tears as she trembled, grappling with the weight of the cabin's oppressive presence. The shadows danced around her, growing bolder as if they could sense her despair. With each heartbeat, she felt the air grow heavier, filling with an icy dread that crushed her chest. "I need to get him back," she whispered, forcing the words through chattering teeth. She steeled herself, stifling the rising panic clawing at her mind. The door, now closed, stood like a wall between her and Tom. Her heart thudded in her ears as she remembered the girl's haunting invitation. Forever, with a deep breath, she stepped forward. Each footfall felt like a surrender, yet she knew she had no choice. The ground beneath her feet shifted uncertainly, as if the very earth was alive, quaking with anticipation. The door's frame churned with unnatural shadows, pulsating like a living thing, hungry for her essence. Ellen reached for the handle, its cold metal biting into her palm. A shiver raced up her arm, but desperation pushed her through. She yanked the door open, and darkness spilled forth, invisible fingers rushing to claim her. "Tom!" she shouted, her voice swallowed by the blackness. She stepped inside, the warmth of the outside world abruptly cut off. The door slammed shut behind her, sealing her in. The interior of the cabin was nothing like she expected. It stretched on in unnatural ways, twisting and contorting the familiar lines of a room. Dust motes hung in the air, glowing eerily in non-light, and the scent of decay clawed at her throat. Faded photographs lined the walls, depicting somber children with hollow smiles. Behind their faded features lay shadows of despair, whispering memories of things better left forgotten. "Tom!" she cried again, panic lacing her voice. No response. Just an echo that bounced off the walls and faded into silence. A flicker caught her eye. She turned toward the far end of the room, where a dim light flickered like a candle struggling against the darkness. Hesitant but fueled by the thought of her son, she made her way toward it. Each step felt heavier, grounded by unseen weight, as if the cabin itself resisted her approach. As she neared the light, she could make out the outline of a figure, a child, perhaps. Her breath caught in her throat. "Tom!" The figure turned slowly, revealing not her son, but the girl from before. The same sickly sweet smile danced across her features. "Welcome, dear friend." Her voice dripped with honeyed malice. "You came for him. Where is he?" Ellen's words were raw, pleading. "What have you done to him?" The girl only smiled wider, her eyes bottomless pits of dark amusement. "He's playing, just like you will be. The cabin loves to welcome new friends." Shadows began to swirl around Ellen, coiling around her limbs, whispering promises of warmth and solace. "No!" she shouted, fighting against their grasp. "I want to join you." But the more she resisted, the tighter they pulled. They wove through her thoughts, sowing doubt and fear, presenting visions of the life they could lead, endless joy, no pain. "Join us," the girl sang, stepping closer, the shadows converging around Ellen, pushing her will to the brink. "You could be happy forever." Ellen recalled Tom's frightened face, his innocent laughter. Her resolve surged back. "I'd rather face the storm than lose my son." With one powerful surge, she ripped herself free from the grasping shadows and broke away from the girl. "I want to stay here. I will find him." But as she began to sprint deeper into the cabin, the laughter returned, twisted and cruel, echoing off the walls like a maddening symphony. Each turn she took led her deeper into a labyrinth of darkness, the light flickering further and further away. "Help me!" she called out, desperation spilling from her soul. Would she even find him, or was she just running deeper into their snare? A sudden crash behind her sent her heart racing with dread. The shadows screamed in rage, clawing at her back, and she stumbled forward. She didn't know what awaited her around the next corner, but she had to believe that Tom was somewhere in that suffocating darkness. Yet the girl's laughter rang louder, mingling with the whispers of the broken children in the photographs. It was a darkness she couldn't escape, a dance she hadn't yet begun to understand. And just beyond the door that had claimed her son, a truth waited in silence. What lay on the other side? Would it be salvation or her doom? The shadows surged once more, and Ellen had to brace herself for the choice ahead. Would she push forward, knowing it might lead to Tom or back into the fate that lured them both? The final question hung in the air: how far was she willing to go to save him? Ellen pressed on, driven by sheer desperation and the flicker of hope for Tom. She couldn't afford to slow down, not with the girl's laughter ringing in her ears, taunting her every step. The shadows writhed, almost sentient, as if the very walls conspired to keep her lost, to snuff out her will. Around another corner, the faint echo of something unsettling pulled at her. Was it laughter? Or was it the sound of her son's cries concealed within the cabin's sinister labyrinth? She didn't hesitate. She stumbled forward, the churning shadows greedily snapping at her heels. Dread clawed at her throat as she called out again, "Tom! I'm coming for you!" Ellen's pulse quickened. The air thickened with a rancid smell, a mix of wet earth and something far worse. She stopped, listening intently. Somewhere ahead, she heard the flurry of footsteps, small and frantic, not beyond her. Was it Tom? A wave of relief mixed with dread surged through her. Was she walking toward salvation or deeper into the trap? "Tom! Answer me!" Her voice cracked, desperation unfolding with each new call. Silence hung heavily. Was it too late? Then, just as quickly, came the weighty sound of movement. She rounded another corner and the temperature dropped. The light she had chased flickered dimly ahead. It beckoned her, but as she approached, she felt something shift, a pulse of energy that sent shivers down her spine. As she reached the source, she saw a door, the surface covered in splintered wood and festooned with strange markings that writhed as shadows passed over them. Ellen's breath quickened. She hesitated, feeling the weight of dark eyes on her, yet desperation pushed her forward. With trembling hands, she gripped the doorknob, an icy chill coursing through her as though it were already aware of her intentions. The moment she turned it and pushed the door ajar, a rush of frigid air greeted her. "Tom!" she shouted, stepping inside. The room was alive with flickers of candlelight but adorned with shadowy, twisted shapes that loomed menacingly, watching her with hungry anticipation. She felt a force in the room, an almost palpable desire to dive deeper into the darkness. Images of the child she'd seen earlier flickered in her mind, their ghostly grins growing wider. And then she heard it, a soft whimper, barely audible, rising from a darkened alcove shrouded in shadows. Ellen steadied herself, her heart thudding wildly against her chest. "Tom! Where are you?" Moving closer, she felt something shift behind her. The shadows seemed to thicken, wrapping around her limbs, urging her to turn back, to leave while she still could. But she couldn't abandon her child. She couldn't allow the cabin to win. "Please let him go," she cried, voice breaking, the desolation within the walls echoing her sorrow. But the shadows only tightened their grip, their voices rising, beckoning her into the depths of despair. As she reached for the alcove, a sudden screech pierced the air, shattering her concentration. From the darkness poured forth a torrent of shadows, swirling around her in a chaotic tempest. Ellen staggered back, fear clawing at her sanity. The laughter ramped up, reverberating in her head, a menacing reminder of the girl's sweet menace. "Join us, forever," the voice cooed, a twisted melody of madness. Ellen spun around, wanting nothing more than to rush past them, to reach the whisper of hope that was her son. "Tom!" With a final surge of will, she released a primal scream that echoed throughout the cabin. The shadows hesitated, momentarily retreating. The flicker of light grew stronger, revealing some hidden secrets. What she saw made her blood run cold, an array of photographs, like the ones lining the walls, but these were starkly different. They showed her son, suspended in time, each snapshot revealing a deeper but darker descent into the cabin's heart. And then, through the thrumming darkness, she glimpsed a shadowy form in the corner, a small boy, trapped, terror pulsing from him. "Tom! Ellen!" he cried, reaching out, his face pale and terrified. The shadows surged again, this time writhing towards her as if fueled by her fear, a hunger that would consume them both. Ellen surged forward, ready to face whatever horrors lay ahead. "I'm coming, Tom." But as she reached for him, a heavy force slammed against her, pinning her down, threatening to extinguish her light forever. Was the cabin truly as insatiable as she feared? What dark fate awaited them both if she couldn't break its grasp? The walls seemed to close in, the shadows whispering louder with each heartbeat. Could she save her son, or were they destined to become part of the cabin's sick collection forever? As the shadows swarmed around her, Ellen felt the grip of darkness tightening, like an icy hand clenching her heart. She gasped for breath, every beat of her pulse sounding like a distant drum. Gritting her teeth, she pushed against the oppressive force pinning her down. "Tom!" She screamed again, summoning every ounce of strength. Her voice echoed, swallowed almost immediately by the oppressive gloom. It was a call of despair, drenched in the fear of impending loss. The shadows responded, writhing as if they found her pain delicious. Desperation clawed at her throat, hot tears streaming down her cheeks. "Let him go," Ellen pleaded, her voice trembling. In the dim candlelight, she could see Tom's tiny frame teetering in the dark, vulnerability radiating from him like a beacon. "Mom!" Tom wailed, his voice a fragile thread that cut through her panic. The shadows flickered at the sound, pausing momentarily, as if reconsidering their approach. With renewed fury, Ellen pushed against the weight pressing down on her. The shadows recoiled slightly, sensing her defiant spirit. She struggled, her wheezing breath mixing with a tide of murmurs, the whispers of children lost in darkness. They filled the air, twisted versions of laughter and cries intertwining into a haunting symphony. Then she remembered the photos. Each captured moment had a glint of truth hidden beneath the horror. They were memories of despair, faces twisted in fear, lost souls mingling with the darkness. If she could recall the power they held, perhaps she could manipulate it. Ellen focused on Tom's figure, trying to shove aside the shadows with her mind. "These shadows don't own you," she cried. "You don't belong to them." With every word, the oppressive weight lifted off her chest. The shadows hesitated, swirling around as if confused, yielding slightly to her newfound resolve. They often derived strength from fear, but she was refusing to give in. "Stand strong, my love," she called, desperate to bridge the gap before it tore them apart forever. Tom's face brightened momentarily, glimmers of courage mingling with traces of his horror. But something shifted, malevolent, in the depths of darkness. An ominous growl sent chills skittering down her spine. "You think you can wrest them from us?" The voice echoed, a sinister concoction of all the lost souls whispering together. "They are ours. All theirs. They join us, become us." "Shut up!" Ellen shouted, filling her voice with the fervor of a mother's love. "I want to let you have him." With a surge fueled by love, she lunged forward. The shadows snapped at her heels, creeping closer, but her eyes remained locked on Tom. Fresh panic surged within her, she could see him begin to waver, as if the shadows were beckoning him closer, like a predator enticing its prey. "Mom, please!" he pleaded, his small hands trembling. The familiar fear in his voice cut through her resolve like a knife. Ellen's heart shattered. Just then, a flicker caught her eye, a single candle, illuminating a wisp of her hope against the darkness. With her mind racing, she focused on that glow, trying to conjure a memory of joy. The time they had spent in the park, laughter echoing through the air, sun kissing their skin. With her eyes locked on the flickering light, she whispered, "You will not feed on him." The shadows recoiled in fury, howling as a gust of wind whipped through the room, sending candles flickering wildly. And in a moment of clarity, Ellen reached for Tom with everything she had left. "I'm coming, sweetheart. Hold on." But a dark figure emerged, larger than the others, a queen of shadows stretching out an arm towards Tom. The air grew thick with dread as it loomed, talons glistening like knives aimed straight at her son. "Come, child." It beckoned, its voice like rusted iron. "It's easier to join us." Ellen's world narrowed, darkness sharpened into clarity. Could she snatch Tom away in time? Would love be enough to sever the chains binding them? She dove into the darkness with an unleashing scream. Something had to break. The shadows were hungry, but so was she. The cabin's fate teetered, but who would emerge unscathed in the end? Ellen's fingers grazed Tom's outstretched hands, but the shadows tightened their grip. Would she face the unthinkable, losing her child to this realm of despair? Their destinies hung precariously in that moment, battling against an unyielding void. One desperate choice remained, but would it lead to freedom or eternal night? Ellen's scream echoed off the walls, a raw, primal sound that seemed to rip through the very fabric of the darkness. She flung herself forward, trying to bridge the insurmountable distance between her and Tom, fingers reaching desperately for the warm grasp of her son. But the shadows tightened like a serpent's coil, flickering with dark energy, gleeful in their triumph. The dark figure hungrily loomed over Tom, its eyeless gaze fixed on Ellen with an unsettling knowing, as if it relished her pain. "Leave him alone," she cried, the words splintering in the swirling chaos. Tom's little body trembled like a leaf caught in a storm, and with every passing second, the Queen of Shadows seemed to inch closer, her talons glinting sharper, a silent promise of harm. "Mom!" Tom sobbed, the sound pained, like breaking glass. Ellen's heart shattered. She could not lose him. Not now, not ever. With determination ignited, she bellowed again, "Fight it, Tommy. Remember us." The shadows hissed, twisting violently, furious at her defiance. She could feel their anger like a physical wave vibrating through the air, whipping her hair around her face. The room pulsed with darkness, thick and suffocating, pressing against her skin as if trying to smother her will. "Join us," the Dark Queen crooned, her voice rich with malice and whispers. "You'll never be alone again. Embrace your true self." Tom swayed, the battle within him evident. Dark tendrils tugged at his frame, pulling him toward the void. Ellen felt a cold chill creeping up her spine, framing her heart in ice. "No!" she screamed, summoning every memory of joy she had ever shared with Tom. She thought of his laughter, how it sparkled like the sun breaking through storm clouds. She remembered his first steps, the clumsy joy that had turned their living room into a cathedral filled with hope. The scent of fresh grass. The warmth of summer days. "Remember the park, Tommy. All our adventures." She yelled, her voice trembling, determined to shatter the darkness with their joy. The shadows, for a fleeting moment, recoiled. The Dark Queen's grip faltered, her talons glimmering less menacingly as if a sliver of sunlight had penetrated the oppressive gloom. Ellen felt the briefest flicker of hope ignite inside her. But then the shrieking shadows surged, responding to their Queen's silent command. They writhed angrily, charging back toward her, hungry to reclaim their lost power. Ellen took a trembling step forward, forcing her body to press through the oppressive mass, heart racing with primal fear. "Tom, hold on to me." Ellen strained, inching closer. His little head lifted slightly, the fog of darkness wavering in his eyes. "Mom," he whispered, a thread of recognition tickling the edges of his mind. Ellen felt the weight of thousands watching, suspended in the dance of shadows flickering around her. She was both terrified and determined, vulnerable but resolute. "Come on, sweetheart. Just a little further." The shadows hissed in response, snapping like angry vipers. But Ellen's presence grew stronger. She was his mother, their bond a powerful force igniting against the darkness. Suddenly, a howl erupted, a chorus of despair towering above their heads. It echoed through the cabin, shattering the moment of clarity. "You cannot take him. He is ours." The Dark Queen swung her arm, sending a wave of chilling darkness cascading toward them. With one final push, Ellen lunged, preparing herself for the bite of the shadows. She felt a tug, Tom's hand slipping from her grasp, the light of her love flaring in a desperate blaze as she fought against the dark tide. "Ellen!" Tom's plea, a note of sheer panic, called through the chaos. As the darkness raced to engulf her, something shifted. The candles flickered violently, casting sharp beams of light across the room, illuminating the faces of lost souls trapped within the shadow realm. Ellen's heart drummed loud and wild as she realized the shadows feared the light. "Hold on, Tommy!" she bellowed, amplifying her spirit into a shield against the encroaching terror. But was that enough to break the Queen's hold? Could love truly sever the chains binding them to this nightmare? With one final desperate grasp, she pushed against the darkness, reaching for Tom, but the Queen's shadow swept forward, ready to plunge them both into oblivion. And then there was silence, a moment of breathless pause before the storm. What would happen when the light and darkness collided? Was this the moment of liberation or their eternal entanglement? The battle raged on, and Ellen found herself questioning everything. Could she truly save Tom from an eternity in this nightmare? Did she have enough strength left to fight one more time? The shadows roared, and in that darkness, destiny awaited. Ellen's heart hammered in her chest as shadows surged around her, threatening to swallow her whole. A swirling chaos of darkness clawed at her, wrapping itself around her limbs like a serpent. But she wouldn't give in, she had to save Tom. "Tom!" she shouted, fighting through the suffocating dark. "I'm coming for you." Her voice echoed, trembling with fear but laced with determination. She could almost see him, a small figure caught in the light of the dimming hope. The flickering candles sent their brief illumination dancing across his terrified face, loneliness etched in his features. The Dark Queen stood between them, her presence commanding as she loomed over Tom, talons poised and ready to snatch him from Ellen. "Join us, child," she crooned, a sinister lullaby wrapped in malice. "It's better here forever." His eyes filled with tears, a battle raged within him. "Mom, I want to go home," Tom cried, desperation laced in his voice, grounding Ellen like an anchor against the terrifying tide of shadows swirling about them. "Stay with me, sweetheart," Ellen shouted, pushing against the swell of darkness. "You're not alone. Remember all the fun we had. Remember the way the sun felt on your skin, your laughter filling the air." By calling back those cherished moments, she forged a connection that kept him tethered to her. The Dark Queen's smile twisted, power shifting in her grasp as she glared at Ellen. "You think memories will save you? They are futile against the darkness we provide. Your love is weak." But Ellen persisted, spurred by the need to protect her son. "As weak as it is, it's stronger than you." A surge of warmth shot through her when she remembered his tiny hands in hers, his laughter ringing freely like cherished bells. "Think of our adventures, Tommy. The time we built that treehouse, or when we jumped in puddles. Focus on that." The shadows writhed, recoiling slightly, their grip faltering. Tom caught Ellen's gaze and grasped onto her words as if they were a lifeline. The currents of darkness whispered in irritation, but the light of her resolve pushed through. A flicker of recognition sparked in Tom's eyes. "I want my mommy," he shouted defiantly, tossing the shadows aside with willful spirit. In a moment, it was as if those words illuminated a break in the darkness, a dividing line stretching through the room. The Queen of Shadows hissed, losing her hold over Tom, who stepped towards his mother, reaching out. "Quickly," Ellen urged, her heart racing. "Grab my hand." Tom lunged forward, and Ellen strained every muscle, ready to pull him back to her. But the Dark Queen wasn't done. With a piercing screech, she swirled around them, dark energy exploding in a final chance to bind them to the cabin. "Do you truly think you can escape?" she hissed, the air thickening with her fury. "No," Ellen yelled, clarity slicing through her fear. "We are not yours." She focused on her love, the greater light, a part of their bond carved from purest intention. The candles erupted in brightness, cutting through the shadows like swords. In that blinding moment, she felt something break. The shadows around them began to fracture, discordant echoing notes of wails filling the air like an anguished symphony. Ellen reached out, and as Tom's small hand slid into hers, warmth enveloped them, pushing back the tendrils of the darkness threatening to ensnare them. "We're together," she cried, tears streaming down her face, almost drowning in the rush of emotions that balled deep inside her chest. "Now, let us go home." With an intense surge of collective power, Ellen yanked Tom toward the light. The shadows screamed, thrashing inside, unraveling like threads of a tattered tapestry. "Fight it. Together." Tom echoed, feeling the strength of their united spirits. With each step away from the well and the Dark Queen, daylight exploded inside the cabin, battling against every shadow. Time slowed, vibrating with tension as Ellen's heart raced with determination. Everything shifted suddenly, the world spinning violently around them. But they pushed through the veil, a heavy curtain falling away. And then they were free, stumbling out of the darkness and into a clearing, the sun bathing them in radiant warmth. They collapsed to the ground, gasping, air rushing back into their lungs. Tom's small frame, still trembling, collapsed into Ellen's arms as layers of relief washed over them. "Mom," he whispered, voice thick with emotion. "I'm here, Tommy," she murmured, sobbing softly through shared relief. "I'm so sorry I wanted to let you go again." As sunlight poured down, the shadows dissipated, the cabin's haunting presence fading into silence, swallowed by the light. Ellen looked back, feeling the remnants of fear and sorrow give way to a new dawn. Weeks passed in the town as they both recovered. Laughter returned, echoing in their humble home, healing the wounds that the horrors had etched in their lives. The photograph of Lila, which had once caused dread, now served as a reminder of their victory over darkness, a story retold with courage. Ellen and Tom found strength in every shared moment, knowing always there would be shadows, but their love would light the way. They were free. But they remained cautious, always stronger together, knowing that whenever darkness loomed, they would face it as one. And that final chapter in their story would always hold the light of love in their hearts. Now it's your turn. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means everything to us, so let us keep this story alive.